Thank you.
On that's Pro Football Focus, PFF. They do it. They try to project what each free agent is going to get. A couple places do this. PFF does it. Overthecap.com does it. And they'll get in the ballpark usually. They'll be kind of in the ballpark. And Osa Odighizuwa, the Cowboys defensive tackle, who is an impending free agent, is one of the guys I've been the most interested in. And like, what is he going to get? And what does it mean on the likelihood that the Cowboys would be involved in actually trying to keep him? Because I will tell you, if you do not have Osa Odighizuwa on this football team,
You do not have
your defensive tackles are butt.
It's dire.
dong.
There's really only one on the team. It's Mozzie. I mean, technically Justin Rogers is on the team if he makes the team next year, and there's another guy whose name I can't think of that is technically on the roster. But you have one NFL-ish defensive tackle on the whole roster if Osa's not here. So the projection for Osa's contract is 4 years, $85 million, which when I start doing division, so that means 2 would be 42.5, which means 1 would be 21 something.
21 point.
Does that
25,
number
25.
strike you as high, low? You think the Cowboys are in on that, or it makes you think they're more out on that? What does that number do for you?
We shouldn't even be here. I'm going to be honest with you. We should not even be here. This should not be a topic of discussion.
You think Osa was a no-doubt signing a year ago?
Should have signed him.
Okay.
You should have signed him. You should have signed him 2 years ago. You should have got him locked up 2 years ago. And what you've done now is you've allowed him to get to a place where the market now is going to dictate his price. Right? Where you could have gotten him, and this is the part about the team building part. If you're looking and you're projecting and saying, you know what? This is a guy who we believe will be around for some time. We want him in this program. We want him in this organization. We want him on this football team. Let's give him a deal. And the deal doesn't have to be a deal that's record-breaking or breaking the bank, but a guy like that who is honestly a good player. He's a good player. Like Osa's a good player.
And a year ago, you probably could have got him for 12 to 15 a year for 4 years.
And that's what I'm saying. Like he's not like Osa's not a world beater. But what's going to happen is you're watching a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. And what happens is teams start looking around and going, holy moly, guacamole. We need to start having more defensive linemen that look like that, play like that, act like that to help our teams get to where we want to get to. What does that do? The ones that they do have in free agency, because you guys have told me in the draft that this draft is really, really heavy on interior defensive linemen. Right?
Keeping in mind the defensive tackle is one of the spots that generally that first year you're not going to kick in.
It takes a couple of times.
So take a couple. We're witnessing that with Mozzie Smith.
Right.
So now the value has gone up in a guy like Osa when he's now on the market because teams are saying, well, this is a guy who has shown that he can go out there and play, can give us position flexibility, can give us a good rotation, can give us the minutes that we need game in and game out to bring our football team to a closer, and especially those teams that are right on the cusp, the real team that are hanging around the rim or the real teams who are actually competing in the playoffs. So now you've allowed his value to rise up. And now you have to go and now compete with other folks with the dollar amount. When you could have been looking at this a year or so ago and said, you know what? Let's just give this guy the money now, and now we won't have to worry about it in 2 years. And now he can't press us to now going from $12 to $15 million, where now he's going to demand $20 million because the market says so. Like, these are the things that we look at when it comes to the Cowboys and say, you wait to the very last minute, and then you get you get bent over with no Vaseline, and get, you know what I'm saying, and get done up on these contracts. And now you have to have the battling situation of, do we keep them? Don't we keep them? And now if you don't have them, to your point, you don't have anything. So now you're almost forced to go out and pay the premium price for a guy who's already big in your organization, who you could have had for a much cheaper price, because guys like Osa, who are trying to get to that second contract, would have taken that money to be a part of this because they don't know what the future holds. They don't know how this thing is going to work out. They don't know how their future is going to project because they don't come from a place of high projection to begin with. So when an agent or a player like that is presented with that kind of money, they go, I'm on. I'll take the $12 million. I'll take the $15 million. Let's do it. And now you have a guy for the next 3 to 4 years at a very, 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 very reasonable price that now you can use that other money to build around him. But now you're going to have to go and pay almost twice as much what he's really worth because you allowed him to get to the end of the market.
It's interesting. The Cowboys
It better be interesting.
Cowboys damn to do and damn to don't.
Because they waited.
Well, what I'm saying is this:
they've picked wrong.
They paid Terrence Steele early.
They did it wrong.
They paid
But they pay guys early who are willing to take this one.
I just know that before. I mean, they paid Terrence Steele, trying to do the same thing.
They paid Terrence Steele after his knee injury.
Yes, they should.
When his stock was at an all-time low.
They paid Michael Gallup early
After his injury.
It just seemed like they just made bad decisions on who they paid, who they don't pay, who they project needs to be a foundational piece to this organization.
And also, I hope that you get all of the money.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to go in your pockets and take money from your pockets. I'm just speaking on the terms of how the Cowboys wait to the end.
Yeah.
Osa, I want you to get all of the bread. I want you to get $100 million if you possibly can, $25 million if you can. Go get the money. Dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah. I struggle with Osa because I think that he's a good defensive tackle, as we talked about. I think he's a really good pass rushing defensive tackle. I think his run defense kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. And with Matt Eberflus coming in, I'm wondering, do you need a guy at your 3 technique who's a big body who can kind of move guys around and play run defense? Or does Osa also give you some flexibility keeping Micah Parsons outside where you can run some stunts with those two and you can kind of get after the quarterback and do things that way? But when I have these questions, I keep coming back to the idea a franchise tag is $24 million for a defensive tackle. They're not going to do that because they're not going to have a $24 million cap hit on 1 year. I don't think.
I could see it.
I don't think for Osa.
I could see it as the in-between option.
We would ridicule that and scrutinize that because that, to your point, so you waited all this time only to have a guy that's going to be $24 million cap hit when, if you really liked him that much, you could have extended him, moved his cap number off so that maybe you have more moves in this coming year. I don't think that is the smart outcome. It could happen, to your point. I don't think it is. I think, personally, there's enough defensive tackles kind of on the older side of things where you can kind of go and get multiple for a certain price tag and then draft 2 to 3 guys in the draft to kind of give more depth and more rotation and kind of groom them a little bit, let Mozzie develop in year 3, that you could for Osa. So because the situation is so dire, frankly, personally, I don't see a guy that's worth $20 million for the Dallas Cowboys a year.
And I think I mostly agree in terms of like, what do you think that player is worth with the salary cap, et cetera, et cetera. I also want to get out there what Jesse said. I agree. I hope you get all of the money. I hope every single player gets all of the money and all of your families are wealthy for all time. Amen. Yeah, I think they let themselves get to the bad spot that they let themselves get to a lot. Mm-hmm. The guys who they tend to extend early are the guys who are most amenable to doing that, which are the guys that are hurt. Right. Like a guy who their agent knows in their heart of hearts, hey, what he's offering us, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being Jalen Smith, and it ends up being Gallup, and it ends up being Terrence Steele. And they let the guys who, like Osa's a durable, good player that wasn't going to probably just take whatever you offered him. You would have to make it reasonably competitive. And then you could do it, but I think they take the easy way out of negotiations and sign the ones that are no-brainers for them if they can just draw the most optimistic outlook ever. Mm-hmm. And the most optimistic outlook ever is Michael Gallup will be right back from that injury. Mm-hmm. Jalen Smith's leg will grow back. Zeke will be great until he's 32.
Lyle Collins
will be healthy
they
and
paid
great.
Him early.
Mm-hmm. And they signed the guys early who are super excited to be signed early. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the guys who they wait on, and Osa's a weird in between. Dak, CD, Micah, no brainer. Doesn't matter what it costs, you're paying them. Osa was one where it's like, you should have made a decision at some point. And now you let yourself get to you're paying in a league where 31 other teams and probably 10 or 12 of them are in a rebuild, staring down the barrel of $140 million in cap space. It's nothing to them to be like, yeah, give him 23, give him like that's nothing to them. And now that's what you're bidding against. I think they screwed it up again. Shocking. But I also don't think they can let him go. No, Joe has it right. You can let Osa go, accept your comp pick in a year, and get his job done by 2 people for less than he's going to make total. I think that's the way to do it.
But there's still risk in that. That's the thing, too, is like, at least with Osa, you know what you're getting, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not, you talk about durability, I think that's something you can count on him. You know what he is moving forward. And I do think the idea to kind of have him as a pass rush combination with Micah is very intriguing. I can't pay him $24 million because I know how the Cowboys work with their cap hit. If they said, hey, yes, Osa, we're going to sign you for $20 million a year, But you're going to have a $5 million cap hit this year. And Micah's going to have a little small cap hit. And we're going to use that money to then go and sign Milton Williams too. Bring him in too.
It's harder to do when they got 0 years left on their contract.
Exactly.
That's how the smart teams do it. They don't do that with 0 years left. They do it with 1 or 2.
So it's tough. I mean, he's a tough one.
We all silly like the mayor.